since I laid my eyes on you, my baby. I just wanna make your dreams come true, my lady. If you low, I'll lift you up. Just let me know.
Welcome to A Goddess Life. You are a goddess, and this is your life. Let's dive in to this week's episode. Welcome, beautiful goddesses, and all of our viewers, whether it is a masculine collective or a feminine collective. Anna and I are so excited to meet together here with you as we are on the cusp of a total lunar eclipse. And if you've been experiencing endings left, right, and center, new beginnings left, right, and center, maybe beginnings in the unknown, maybe beginnings you're not really sure are the right beginnings, there's all this stuff in the mix right now, and it does have to do with eclipses. So usually it's the fall into winter season that is eclipse season, as well as the late winter, I want to say more spring, early summer is eclipse season as well. Now, I'm not an astronomist, so maybe there's some interplay there, but I'm being told to highlight the seasons are significant and why eclipses happen in those seasons if we were to move in a self growth or an energetic or a cosmic or cosmology kind of a paradigm. So, seasons, if we break them down quarterly, the seasons of the year or the cycles, they all represent a cycle of birth, death, all those different things. But the seasons, when we go to winter, it is that slumber, it is that rest period, it is that point where you're in deep hibernation of the soul, if we're to put it in the context of soul versus the actual season and the mirroring of it. Now, the summer, the height of the summer is usually where it is warm, where everything is in bloom, where the fruits are being harvested from the fields, where everything is beautiful and we get to delight and languidly linger with the days. And the sun is out tremendously for the longest time. And versus the winter, where it's at its full height or full depth, rather, sun is the full height of summer, and the winter could be the full depth of that deep slumber hibernation or that deep unfurling of the unconscious or the deep soul work that we do. Now, the bumper seasons, spring and fall, these are transition seasons between these two, I guess you could say north and south, right? And if we put directional 4 directions in there too, that also aligns with the seasons. It's interesting that we're talking about all these things and putting them together to create a whole picture rather than just being like, oh, we're coming into fall, or oh, it's the season, or oh, it's the eclipse. Fall and spring are transition seasons. It's where you're transitioning. Think about spring. It's where you're finally coming to life again, and all of the death and decay of all the leaves and all this stuff. And the snow is melting. Spring is a transition into life to get to the fullness of the summer. Whereas fall is a slow decay. It's the illumination. Think about the leaves, the brightness of the leaves. They turn color in the fall, at least where I live in Ontario, Canada. They turn a brilliant red, yellow, or orange. Those are all the earthly root chakra colors. There's a reason for that. It's your root foundation of how you operate. It's your personal power in alignment with it, and it's your expression. That's solar, sacral, and root. That's the color that the leaves turn in the fall, where we get the illumination of, that's where I gave my power. And that's the root experience. I keep having it. And I didn't get to express myself in the fullness of it. And that's why I keep going into this cycle. So fall is where we have the brilliant illumination of the cause and effect in our lives, or a season or a cycle of our life that has resulted in something that we may or may not want, that we like or do not like, that we are changing or are destroying or want to preserve. Fall is really synonymous with that change. It's the dying off of what was so that you can go into the deep slumber to rebirth and then come back into the spring. Now, if we bring all that back to, we've got the 4 directions, we've got the 4 seasons, which create the full cycle, the main depth and height seasons, as well as the 2 transitions. Now, eclipse seasons typically happen, I'm hearing their bumpers, the eclipse is throughout the transition seasons. It's not in the height of summer usually, and it's not in the depth of winter. Now, has it happened at those times? I feel like maybe it has. But for this explanation of 2025 and the shifts that we're going through emotionally, mentally, physically, consciously, it's synonymous with these cosmological shifts and changes, as well as the seasons to turn to for anchoring understanding of the process we're going through. So, eclipses, I've always intuited eclipses as eclipsing one version of you to another. Sometimes that happens in layers. There's the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. Lunar eclipses deal with the moon, which is the unconscious aspects working with subconscious material or things underpinning us that are creating cycles that maybe we're not completely aware of. Whereas solar eclipses, that deals with the sun, the action, moving towards something. So notice it's feminine energy and masculine energy as well, lunar and solar. Solar is very masculine energy, and the lunar is very feminine energy. The lunar is the subconscious, and the solar could be viewed as the conscious waking world, or what we are aware of, or how we take actions. So, an eclipse is eclipsing one version of you to the other. And I always hear that song, Total Eclipse of the Heart. I feel like every time eclipse season comes, the fact that it comes in the transition seasons, we're starting September with a 9-9 portal. We're starting with a total lunar eclipse. It's a blood moon. This is really interesting. And this is the last moon before, I think, three super moons to close out the entire 2025. This energy is highly potent, deeply and profoundly impactful to our unconscious, to our conscious, and to our superconscious, which is really directing the field for each and every one of us. So, when we're talking about a total lunar eclipse, when we're eclipsing one version of ourselves to another, like prime example, we have these versions of us that we've been living out that were shaped and molded based on external factors permeating our internal world, which caused us to create that world because that's permeated it. So, for example, if we have a wound that we feel unworthy, or we're not good enough, or something always doesn't work out, or you're never good at something, like everybody's story is going to be different. To eclipse that, it's almost like it has to come all the way up into your conscious energy. So you can see where the root of it has been sitting in the unconscious, right? In your root. We have to see it in the conscious world. And there's an old saying, I think it's Buddha that said it, but it's the mind will repeat over and over what the heart is actually trying to heal. So when we have something on repeat in our minds, it's something that has torn open our heart, something that's not in alignment with the version that you are, I want to say, ascending towards. For example, if you want to take control of your own life and be a co creator and be proud of yourself and create unabashedly and take up space, that version of you has to eclipse the old version of you that is afraid to take up space, is too timid to speak their truth, is always feeling like they have to do 10 times more than they need to because they're not good enough. So, in order to eclipse those versions of us, especially a total lunar eclipse, because that's the emotional, unconscious, the feminine, the intuitive, the places that are hidden within us that we haven't really truly opened the door to. Some of the darkest places we're not even aware of. And dark is not used in a negative way. It's used as in, I'm hearing use the occultist term, something that is hidden, right? The occult. Occult is something, hidden teachings or hidden meanings, something that's hidden in plain sight right in front of your eyes, is what I'm hearing. So it's there, but sometimes it's hidden from us. It's a powerful energy. So to have a lunar eclipse, it's your feminine energy, to eclipse something you have always been, that's been in the root foundations of who you are, because it's what you were told you were. Therefore, you acted that way because you believe that, not even realizing, well, at the same time, you're trying to, expand beyond it. You have to pull out the root. The root has to be completely severed if it is not in alignment with the energy you're going into. And a total lunar eclipse, because there's different shades of eclipses, right? There's lunar phases and lunar cycles and the different aspects of the moon, like prenumbral or all those different things. They all play a certain role. And each one holds a certain energy, which is the same as the goddess, to tie this into the goddess and the lunar. Every goddess, I guess you could say, is considered to be one of the phases of the moon in her full cycle. You could also look at it like if we were to look at Kali and the moon cycle, some people reference goddess Kali and Tripura Sundari or Lalita, goddess Lalita, as Kali being that full moon and Lalita being the new moon. And all this, every single day in between of that cycle is filled with the Nitya Kalis, which each play a certain role, have a certain teaching, a certain reflection, a certain illumination, a certain action. They all hold something different, but they're all part of the phases. So I feel like cycles and seasons and process is deeply feminine. It's feminine because it contains the whole overarching process. Like, think about birth. So as a woman, I was seeded into my mother's belly by my father. I was a seed, if you look at it in that context. I had to take 9 months to begin to grow, to begin to find my roots through the cord, to get nourishment. Then I grew arms, then I grew a head, then I grew eyes. It's the miracle of life. And what happens when that cycle of that growth period from the seed is ready to erupt out of the earth to reflect mirror parallels of plants? When the plant erupts from the earth up out of the ground, so much happened before it even showed itself above the ground to even show you that a plant was there. But giving birth is the same thing. When the child is born, you do not know what that child is going to look like. You don't know any of those things. Not until that child is out into the world do you get to look upon it with sheer awe. And of course, the hormones that happen when you give birth absolutely helps. It's sheer bliss. There is no pain at that point. But it's the same with plants and seasons and cycles. That's a cycle. We think of life and death as the one cycle, but within life and death of our lives, there are multiple cycles. There are multiple periods of process and growth, right? There's toddlers, there's teenage years, there's adult years, then there's, the golden years, as they say, or the retirement years. There's all these different things that you could play on the goddess cycles and the mother maiden crone and the moon cycles and the season cycles, even the four directions, the four corners I'm hearing. These are all playing a huge role in supporting us in these eclipsing seasons. And these eclipses are happening on these transition seasons of the 4 season cycle. It happens that way for a reason. And no, I'm not a scientist, so I can't tell you exactly what that scientific reason is or the methodology behind it, but I can speak to intuitively. Yeah, I got the seraphim here speaking to think about the fire. The fire goes through cycles too. When you put on lots of wood, the fire rages, but then you can burn away down the wood and it goes through the phase where it is slightly burning out. And don't forget, it is still a phase of the fire when the embers and the logs are just glistening with that red glow, but there is no actual flame. And then we come to the ashes. These are all cycles of the fire, but they're all the fire. One is not better than the other. So they're really tying into this total lunar eclipse is eclipsing or deleting an old version of you right now. So to have those mental patterns, I know I'm going on a lot here on them, but they're making me feel like all these things are condensed into this for a reason, because the impact of the energies, one viewer or listener is going to be able to tune it to the seasons and draw it in to make sense. Someone else is going to be able to use the lunar phases and the moon and spell casting to make sense of it. Somebody else is going to be able to use the goddesses to make sense of it. We're all going to be able to utilize a different perspective or the seasons on all of these things, whether you're spiritual, whether you're scientific, whether you're not into any of it. It's undeniable that change is the only constant. So in this eclipsing, like the fall leaves that I often attune to and the coloring of them, a total lunar eclipse on a blood moon. Think about blood, red, root, magnetism, strength, power, foundation. Red is significant. It is a powerful color. We use it for Valentine's Day as the color of love. Red hearts, the color of love, right? What if the root is really the color of love? What if we're shifting the root to be the color of love? Because there are some people who view red as the heart chakra, whereas other people view the heart chakra as a green color. It doesn't really matter what you attune it to. You could flip and flop and mix and max and merge them as much as we want to. But in this process, there are a lot of endings right now for a lot of people. Some are going to be shocking, some are unexpected. But what's the purpose of an ending? It's always your signal that a beginning is happening. You can't have a beginning without an ending. And most of us are like, yay, I'm looking forward to my new beginnings. And sometimes we don't expect the grief that we might have with an ending or what really caused that previous cycle. When we finally see it coming to an end, that can bring up mental patterns. To end a cycle means to end the mental pattern, means to shift and transmute the energy associated with it, and to fully express, integrate, and understand and transcend the expression or the emotional aspects of it. A total lunar eclipse is your expression, your mental, your energetic, and it will include physical. Like oftentimes when we have endings, we have emotions, but I always feel the emotion, the thought, and the physical form, like they're not separate. They're all kind of moving together in an ending. So that saying that, which I think is a Buddha, I got like, I'm gonna have to look that up after this, but your mind will repeat over and over again what your heart is trying to heal. And I feel like that's such powerful wisdom because it's not only just that. Like, if we were to take that quote and expand on it, says the goddess, your mind will repeat what you wanted to express, but did not allow yourself to. Your mind will repeat trying to understand something. Some of you continue cycles, not because you want to continue the cycle, but because you are deeply and desperately trying to understand and make sense of things that don't always make sense. There are many facets to that statement. But if you are repeating something, it's because you are trying to gain something from it, to glean something, to understand something, and to hold something. For when that whatever is causing that thing on repeat in your mind to cease, it can only cease when you fully understand it, then you can let it go. It can only cease when you decide it no longer comes along with you. It can only cease when you decide it is no longer true. It can only cease and end when you recognize the pearl it is gifting you. And when that happens, a total eclipse occurs. A total eclipse from that entire way of thinking, that entire way of being, that entire way of feeling. Think about the dimensions. First dimension, root, right? Experience. Second dimension is your expression of that experience or lack thereof. And most of us, that's where we struggle, is in the expression of our experiences, whether it's not expressing it and stuffing it down inside, or expressing it out as a projection and blame at others, or misexpressing it and failing to see the purpose of it underneath it all to begin with, right? But that third dimension, like, which is the everyday world, and you could look at it as solar plexus, your personal power. It's also in dimensions, the dimension of integrating and understanding what the experience was because we expressed it. And notice again, the fall. It's the three colors of the leaves. The root is the first dimension. The sacral, you could look at as the second dimension of expression. And the solar plexus, which is your personal power, is your integration and understanding in the third dimension. We perceive the third dimension to be a bad thing or it's so terrible and I want to be out of it because it's so limited and constrictive. But the third dimension is only limited and constricted while we're trying to process our experiences and the expression of them so that we can get to the illumination of power behind it, taking back our power to integrate, understand it. And then we move into fourth dimension where we transcend that particular layer of what made us who we were. Thus, a total eclipse from the very unconscious of us. This is all interconnected. Now, I feel like that's the perfect setup for those of you listening. Anna channeled the most amazing information, and really it's guidance, and it's touching deep in the soul. And I asked Anna if she would be willing to share it with all the beautiful listeners here because it touched me. And I feel like everything we just talked about, they're saying was the preemptive, the precursor, or the preparation to fully receive the words that came through. So I'm going to close my eyes. I'm just going to listen on if you can just share it with us. I feel like sometimes taking a deep breath and being fully present allows us to fully receive and listen to what it is that you've brought through as that guidance.
Yes. How to dare and be safe. Walking into the darkness, deep end of ourselves. You are protected, always. Remember your light. We are beside you, holding your hand, always supporting you towards your highest self. To get there, you must be brave. To dare walk where the path is not lit. To walk places you have never been before. This is a transformational lifetime, shaking your soul for forever. The biggest lifetime your soul has ever had. We are such a big group supporting all that you are. You are so loved. If you knew, you would never be afraid again, ever.
There's so much packed into that that touched on the ascension process, right? This is a big life and this is a huge transformational life. Like when people who are really aligned with star seeds and things like that, that whole concept of ascension and, connecting with the stars and all these different aspects speaks to that transformational life. I'm no longer just me going through the status quo on autopilot, not recognizing how what I do affects others, not seeing the long term cause and effect, not being able to expand beyond my own little limited world. This is a profoundly transformative life for a lot of people. And when they say, oh, you're volunteers, right? If we talk about Dolores Cannon and the three waves of volunteers and that whole concept or ideation, that's kind of what it speaks to. Like, we do have people who are here for this transformative period on the earth plane, who have been preparing for it, who are here for it. What you channeled when you said in there, it's a group. It is a large group supporting you. Like, how did you feel about that when
Oh,
you
good.
channeled that? Yeah.
Yeah, it was so easy. It was flowing. It was flowing so easily
Hmm.
when I was writing it.
And I love that it was identified as a group because to me that speaks volumes. It's like a breadcrumb right there, right? Sometimes we need a specific goddess or a specific loved one's energy or a specific energy or specific teaching. Like, look how many things that we've crossed in the manner of, a 40-minute conversation between directions, seasons, goddesses, moons, channeling, like a super group. We've crossed all these different areas. I'm hearing they're interchangeable if you will dawn a greater perspective and see why they are interchangeable. It is not segregated, it is rather a multifaceted perspective of the same process of ascension, coming at it from multiple different angles because there's multiple different people. But that whole idea of the big group that's here to support you, yes, that makes complete sense to me. Like sometimes when I channel, it is those individuals because that's who I specifically need, or that's who the person I'm doing a session for needs to have the greatest spiritual evolution. But then you come to a point where you don't need an individual. You need the chorus, you need the symphony, you need the group that holds a certain frequency, like the white cloth or the white wave frequency, as one would say it, or the goddess frequency, or this frequency, or just a group of higher dimensional being frequency. When they come in groups, I'm hearing it's It's a level of graduation. It's kind of like when you need individual things, it's because you're processing deep wounds that are very specific, that entity, that persona, that teaching, that culture, or that archetype represents, that's specific to your journey, that will be deeply healing because they represent that, or that's a facet or nuance of them. But once you move through those things and you've called back in all your lady goddesses, all your dakinis, I'm hearing, called in all your dakinis and worked with each of them in different ways, or maybe it's different cultures, or maybe it's just different areas or detours of your life that really aren't detours. Then you come to the point where it's just a group. And the group is more than sufficient because it's no longer about that teeny tiny little thing you were healing that's very specific to you. You begin to evolve beyond it to come into the integration and understanding and the holding, and that version of you ceases to exist. It experiences an eclipse, which is an ending, thrusting and catapulting you into the new beginning of this new version of you, which, yes, you're still going to be able to easily draw on the different personas or archetypes of consciousness that you need to, regardless of what it is, angels, Jesus, whether it's goddesses, it doesn't matter what it is. What matters is what's right for you at any point in time. When you get to the group, it's one frequency, and different entities or personas exist in different frequencies in the ascension process. So when you say it's a big group, I feel like that speaks to the fact of multiple things. They're just making me feel like when you come to the group, it serves a different purpose. It holds a different frequency, which is actually an attunement so that you can recognize what you have hold and healed and that you are eclipsing. And that is one of the indicators that we might say is an eclipsing. Now, some people never have individual guides, goddesses, Archangel Michael, this here, that there. They only have this consciousness where I'm not really sure what the name of it is. I'm just rolling with it. Every time that has come through, I've always attuned to those people when they've asked that question. I've always felt like it's because they didn't need the individual pieces. They had already healed and hold what they had worked on, or something specific like that. Like everybody's story is different. I want to kind of generalize it to fulfill it. But they're saying the fact that you said the group, that's what you channeled through, your higher self is connected to an entire group frequency that is specific to you, which means you never have to be afraid of what you say and what you do because you're always being supported, protected, nudged along your path in a way that honors your free will in all its capacity, because that is the most empowered, is through your free sovereign will. And they're making me feel like that's an indicator for many people on the ascension process. When we shift into that group, it becomes a different energy. It's no longer these highs and lows of ups and downs. It's almost like I'm seeing the knot of Isis. It's like the stabilizing energy of this group frequency, because an individual thing is powerful for an individual. But as a group whole, when you come together, that frequency, like that's why they say if you go into a room of negative people, you start to feel the negativity because there's 100 people there and there's just one of you. It's the same vice versa. When you walk into a room of 100 positive, high vibing people, you suddenly feel the upliftment because that's the dominant energy. What do you think about that? How do you feel about it?
Oh, it is so interesting and fascinating listening to you and how you are presenting the things that I have gone through in such a beautiful way. That is so fascinating to me. And after, I think all of those listening, after the summer that we went through with June, July, and August, it
Whew.
was a shit show. And I know I did a lot of healing and not consciously because things were being cleared
Yeah.
just by us being present in that time. And I think that those months have really shaped us up to what we are eclipsing now.
Ding, ding,
Uh,
ding.
yeah.
Absolutely.
And if I had if I had not been, I want to say awake, but it's not the word I'm looking for. If I had not been self-reflecting enough just this past weekend, I might not have found gift that was being showed to me. And just some context. I got an email on Friday at work. It was just a regular email. There was nothing, nothing dangerous in it, but it triggered me on this deep, deep level. I was angry. I just kept going on loop in my mind. How could she write this all Friday, all Saturday, and then on Sunday morning? I was tired of ruining this beautiful weekend by having these thoughts. So I did like energy clearing. I cleared my house, I cleared myself, I did meditations, and it felt a bit better, but it was still there. And then it sort of clicked, I need to go deeper. And
Mm-hmm.
I am not someone who is afraid to go deep. I can jump straight out into it because I know I'm safe. I know I'm supported. But this was so deep, and I don't want to say dark, but it was hidden. I was hiding it from myself. I had to fight my way to get to the limiting belief. What was also interesting, which I sort of understood now, is that the last couple of weeks I've been doing inner child healing. I've been doing some clearings, having some journal prompts I've been working with. Or what need is my inner child trying to give me? And I couldn't get the answer. So I was going and working with that. And then on Sunday, I got, I am not good enough. And I've thought that many times before. I thought I had cleared it before, but this was so deep.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going back to times I grew up as a really lonely child, not feeling supported. And I can go back to me being like 4 or 5 years old, sitting in my room all alone, knowing I had nobody to turn to.
Mm.
And just how could a 4 or 5-year-old think those thoughts? I'm now 40 years old, trying to change that belief that I've been having since, say, I was 4 years old when I got it. It is not something I can do in just a day.
No.
No, and then by having that I am not good enough, it has shaped everything I've done, everything I say, how I behave in the world,
Mm-hmm.
what I accept, both in relationships and in my work, friendships, and things I say yes to. How should I approach life knowing that I'm good enough? I have no idea what it will look like.
That's a powerful statement right there. Isn't it fascinating that one little I am statement, I am not good enough, could have such a deep impact on everything that you are and everything that you do and everything you think and everything you feel for decades after decades? When you unpack a belief like that, that's in every area of life. Every area. How could you unpack that in a day? Nobody can. I sure as hell could not have done that. It's taken me years and different layers and seeing things that I didn't see before and unmasking and uncovering and unraveling, all to get down to an I am statement, which brings me back to that Jesus statement, what have on the billboards, right? I am the truth, the way, and the life. Jesus isn't, I am the way, truth, the way, and the life. He was saying the I am, period. That is the truth and the way you will live your life based on the truth of whatever you tell yourself your I am is. So, how do you discredit that I am? How do you rip out that mental patterning, those cords of negativity? How do you draw out the root seed? Well, you do that by experiencing it in all the places of your life that it's permeated, I guess you could say. And that is inner child healing, right? That's known. Child psychology will tell you it, from the ages of 0 to 7 is some of the most permeating, malleable states as a human being that we have. And those can set us up for failure or success for the rest of our life. Those can limit our I am. And now they're saying, and now that you have unpacked all that, isn't it fascinating to know that an I am is simply a statement that you put an emotion to and you put a thought to and you gave it meaning? If the I am is the truth, the way, and the life, could you not change your I am to every time you say I am not good enough? You say, I am always good enough. I am enough. Switching it like that, when you recognize that your I am is something that you choose and you can discern what you choose, then you begin to see how easy it is to be on repeat with an I am statement, which becomes your truth, then becomes your way. And that's the life that you create, just as it did for the negative I am. Both are equally powerful. When you perceive something you've done for decades, they're saying remove time. Oh, this is good. Remove time. Do not get hung up on the idea that 4 decades of saying one thing is more powerful than you having a full body, full throttle, all in, fully committed, every fiber of your being, mind, body, emotion, spirit, energy, physical, whatever it is, saying, I am enough. And that is enough. Do not think that that is not less powerful because it hasn't been repeated over time. When one commits to something so fully and completely in a moment, that excels or speeds up. They're showing me it's like the 4 decades on the linear timeline. You jump up a timeline if it's like a graph, right? It's forget time. Don't give time more weight in terms of these types of transformations than is required or is even needed at this point in your journey. The time that you have spent healing, all of you, on the ascension process, yes, you needed time to do that because it was multiple facets of your lives. Look at the worlds we live in. A simple I am of I'm not good enough impacts every area of your being, every area of life, every interaction in your inner world and your external worlds. But do not discount the power of your full commitment and your, I'm seeing lightning, Durga, like the lightning flash of absolutely not, almost like divine intervention. We are done with that. And sometimes that's what these experiences have been during June, July, and August for people. Something got so bad, or something that has been happening on repeat their whole life came so full force and full throttle that it came up so big that you lightning bolt, I will never again do this. I will never again choose this. I will never again accept this. I am more than this. Sometimes that's the catalyst point, and you've been being prepared to roll the momentum to that lightning point. Everybody's been different. I know I've experienced them both ways for me personally, and it's been an intense last 3 months. I think it has been for a lot of people, both like in the external world, but and personally as well, and people that we're connected to. Maybe you've just been witnessing people going through extremes as well too, right? So they're making me feel like quantum leaps happen when you make committed decisions. The deeper the decision, the deeper the commitment, the deeper the mind. And I say deeper because they're showing me down, which creates the roots. The deeper that lightning goes to make that decision that is fully committed, that you won't, that you are not what you were before. That's the eclipse. And it can feel like lightning. It can feel like things like falling away, stuff coming up. And again, that Buddha quote is saying, hearing it again, what the mind repeats is what the heart is actually trying to heal. And sometimes it is hidden, right? There's covert and overt. Covert is that, hidden, subtle thing that's a little bit murky or seems like it's one thing, but actually underneath it all, it's something else. And then overt is the external. Usually there's like external things happening, or it's overt. It's so obvious you can't miss it that it's shocking. So there's multiple different facets to it, but they're just making me feel like, Do not give the weight of decades in this lifetime more power than your weight as a sovereign being, and the moment, the exacting point that you become completely aligned, like the lightning strike, where it is unequivocally absolute, commanding, this is my I am. That is an eclipse, right? It's the unconscious, the subconscious eclipsing the conscious. So it's like that coming full circle for us to see what it is we are having a total eclipse of the heart. And to go back to in the middle of our conversation there, and channeling really guidance that was coming through, they were saying that it's not just the mind repeating things because your heart wants to heal it. It's all these other things. It can only cease when you've expressed it, integrated it, understood it, or unequivocally just don't give two shits. You are absolutely 100 million% done with it.
Mm.
There's different ways to come to it. Like, notice there's multiple pathways there. But that's what this has felt like. The intensity of the last 3 months has felt like the preparation, exactly as you said. And they're saying we're operating in the quantum field. The more dimensions you open to, the more you have self-reflection, the more you surrender not knowing the answer and being open to receiving an answer that's conducive to your growth. Those are quantum leaps and jumps and all these things, and you'll never see a failure as a failure. You'll never see yourself as not being enough, because if you see yourself as not being enough, you're always going to fail at everything you do because you came to it before you even started it with the feeling that it's not enough, ultimately projecting failure, right? When we eclipse that, everything changes. And self-reflection is needed. It's the same for me too, Anna. Like, if I didn't stop and take moments, like, I need to breathe, this is too much, I can't focus, I need to get back to my presence, I'm so angry about this, what's it trying to show me? If I didn't take those moments and have that self-reflection, I wouldn't have been able to glean the pearls, and I wouldn't, as they would say, pass the spiritual test. But again, you know me, I don't roll with that explanation of it because it doesn't really make sense to me and my exact experiences and how I guide and intuit for others. It doesn't really fit into it. But for the sake of the conversation, I feel like, yeah, they feel like tests. But did you know that masters used to hire irritating people to come into their classes for their students? I didn't know this. I just learned this, that masters used to hire irritating people or people who weren't quite at that level of consciousness, because a true test of your capacity, what you have learned, your depth, your growth, your presence, and your inner landscape and your personal power doesn't happen or isn't truly reflected in the moments where everything's hunky-dory and easy and everybody acts the way you want them to. That kind of stuff happens in the moments where you're faced with your deepest fears, where you're challenged by other people to not need to change them, but not let them rock your inner place. Do you know what I mean? There's these different dynamics that's where the real testing happens. And it's not testing as in, are you good enough or are you not good enough? Can you pass it? Or can you not pass it? Will you fail it? It's more of multiple opportunities that we're presented with to say, hey, you've done all this healing, you've done all this work, you've got all these tools in your back pocket. Here is a perfect opportunity, a perfect experience. Use your tools. Because when you come to the other side of it, that's even more deeply empowering and develops confidence, because you get to say, I went through that and here I am. And I really have made some progress here, even if it can't be seen by anybody else. I've made some progress, because normally I would have lashed back at that other person, or I would have felt it was about me, or I would have self-sacrificed. And maybe in this particular opportunity of experiencing things that were not in alignment, it afforded you the opportunity to maintain your rooted new frequency and still allowing everybody else to be who they are and what they are without needing to change them, but also without needing for it to impact your inner landscape. There's just so much that we can perceive that as. And in the moment, I know it's not easy. in the throes of it, like sometimes the mental struggle or a trauma or emotional endings, there's just so much of that happening right now that if we can just give ourselves some grace and ease and recognize that, one, this moment is not the end of your story, it's the end of a chapter in your life, maybe a version of you, which means there's new chapters, new stories, new versions, new experiences, new people. Like, there are so many people waiting to love on you. You can turn your eyes to that, or you can keep focusing on all the people that didn't love you. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's these dynamics that we can really lean into right now that, no, they're not going to solve all your problems for you. They're not meant to. They're meant to show you what you're made of. They're meant to show you you're 10 times more powerful than you've acknowledged. They're meant to show you you have the power to change your world by a simple statement, a simple shift in perception that we often don't recognize because we're in the throes of it. And that's what I love about these super frequencies, higher dimensional beings, being finely attuned to the different realms or dimensions of experience. That's the purpose of it, to support you in it so that you can rise, because the ultimate empowerment is you feeling empowered and you feeling connected and you feeling like you are enough, you can create in the world, you can give back, that you matter. And side note, so does everybody else just as much. That's the whole point. And that's what we're all going through in a nutshell. Man, they're really making me feel like they just want to get stuff out. But it's stuff I know I needed to hear.
Yeah, me too, definitely.
So I'll be curious to know with the viewers and listeners how you've experienced the last 3 months, if this is aligning with you in terms of the guidance that's coming through, because I feel like, be happy. Be happy that things are coming to an end that didn't serve you to begin with. And sometimes what you have felt or thought was safety was not safety at all in terms of your soul being safe to expand and be limitless. It was confining, and it was not safe for you in terms of looking at it in the perception of a soul evolving. If I am not evolving, and that's what my soul absolutely unequivocally is here to do, the safety sometimes is in the unknown, which ties perfectly into your channel. Can you, just to like close this out, can you repeat it one more time?
Yes, I can. How to dare and be safe, walking into the darkness, deep end of ourselves. You are protected always. Remember your light. We are beside you, holding your hand, always supporting you towards your highest self. To get there, you must be brave, to dare walk where the path is not lit, to walk places you have never been before. This is a transformational lifetime, shaking your soul for forever, the biggest lifetime your soul has ever had. We are such a big group supporting all that you are. You are so loved. If you knew, you would never be afraid again, ever.
Well, we did intend at the beginning of this conversation that we were going to let it be woven in with all these different things. And they're showing me a full circle, a complete circle, just like the sun, just like the moon. Yes, it goes through multiple phases, but it's always a full circle. It's just different shades or different aspects of it are hidden for a time. The story is not over. You do not need to be afraid. Turn your eyes to the sun, to the beginnings, to eclipsing into a version of you and an I am presence and foundation that is conducive to the things you came here to actually do, to grow, to create, to be limitless. The second time you read that was different than the first time. There was a
No?
different energy. And the words were not different, but the energy or the tone was different.
Interesting.
It is interesting in a good way. They're
Yeah.
saying, again, part of the process. Think of the statement, I love you. You can say it in a multitude of different ways with different tones and different undertones and different subtleties and different frequencies. Or you can speak that simple 3-word sentence from the absolute most open-hearted place. It's still the same 3 words.
Yes.
I feel like this has been a conversation that doesn't need to be black and white, right or wrong, up or down. I feel like it's an anchor point when we are in the liminal spaces for the moments of transformation. So some of us don't get lost in it. And not that they could get lost to begin with, but this just brings great peace and an anchoring point to continue to propel further into the eclipse of the new version of you, to relinquish knowing the past is over and the I ams you embodied that were not conducive to the truth of who you are, that is over too. Be blessed, rejoice, and go all in for the new ones, the new beginnings.
Perfect.
It is perfect and imperfectly perfect. That's what I love about it. That's what makes it perfect, is it's imperfect. I love that. Well, to all the beautiful, beautiful listeners and viewers, beautiful souls, goddesses, whatever you attune to, thank you so much for joining Anna and I on this experience, this channeling, the guidance, the conversations, this lifetime of great transformation and soul evolution that we are all going through and experiencing in different ways. We would be delighted to hear how you resonated with this in the comments. Was some of this message yours? Did it affirm something for you? Did it help you to, find at least one foot in the middle of the transformation so that you can take your next step in the process? Because sometimes in the middle of the process, we just need an anchor point there. They're saying, just to go back as a tangible confirmation of that, think about a woman who's pregnant. She'll typically get an ultrasound partway through to make sure everything's okay. It's the same as a transformation. Consider this to be the ultrasound, the X-ray of the internal alchemy you are all completing that can't necessarily be seen in the external yet, to provide confirmation or validation that you are indeed changing. The alchemy is working. You are making progress because you're almost there. So fascinating. I never thought about it like that. So that's interesting. Spirit just gifted us with this entire conversation. I'm so grateful, Anna.
Me too.
Beautiful souls. If you have not done so already, please like, share, and subscribe. We are going to be coming out with content every single Friday, whether you're catching us on Spotify or on YouTube. And of course, we love to hear from you in the comments how you're doing during this great shift and change. And we'll see you on the next episode.
Since I lay my eyes on you, my baby, I just want to make your dreams come true, my lady. If you low, I'll lift you up. Just let me know when it gets tough. Do you feel the way I do?